And good morning, good evening, wherever it may be. Around the nation, around the world, you are listening to the great, the one and only Supernatural Realm on WTRMradio.com. And we are the Trim Radio Network, where we cut the bull and serve the truth. You can find us on Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Podbean, and our very own app available on Google Play. That's the Trim Radio Network. And we're also on Facebook as well. Facebook and Twitter. Follow us on all those sites, social media sites as they call them. And tonight we got a very special guest, Daniel Hageman. Daniel has been interested in the ufology for most of his life, and he's a great guy. We're going to talk about an event that's coming up here locally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and I'm going to give the mic over to Dan and let him tell the listeners about him and how he got started in ufology. Daniel, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you for having us.
So Dan, what got you started in the interest in ufology?
Well, a long time ago, 5 years of age, family on Sundays would go to my grandparents for the day and just spend the whole entire day there. And they lived north of Butler, up just south of Eau Claire, PA. And we were on our way home. It was probably 9:30 in the evening. It was dark. We're headed south on Route 38, and my uncle had a car. It was a Ford Skyliner. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that model, half the roof was plexiglass or some type of glass that you could look up through the roof from about where the back of the front seat would start up to the windshield. And then the roof was solid from the edge of the front seat on back. But in any event, my aunt and my two sisters were in the back seat. My uncle was driving. I was sitting in the center front. My mom was on the passenger side. And, of course, I was looking up through the roof, and I was watching these lights. And, of course, my mom, she kind of nudged me with her elbow, and she said, "What are you looking at? Why are you being so quiet?" And I drew their attention to these two lights that were above our car. They were probably about the size of the average saucer that would go with the dinner set. You know, you have the dinner plate, and then you have the saucer. And they were side by side. They were spinning opposite directions of one another. And they actually looked like they were on fire, like they were burning. And they were, like I said, rotating opposite directions. And my uncle slowed the car down. And, of course, by this time, my aunt and my sisters are in the back seat. They're trying to look up to see what's going on. And my uncle had pulled over to the side of the road going south. That would have been on the left, closest to the dam. He pulled over to the berm. And when he pulled over, he shut the lights off, turned the engine off, and these things immediately stopped above the roof of the car. And you could clearly see the spinning. Like I said, it looked like they were on fire.
Oh, wow.
But they were getting larger. They were definitely coming down. My uncle stepped outside the car, and I remember my mother saying, "Jack, what do you make of that? What do you think that is?" And Jack said, "Well, I don't hear any sound." He said, "I don't know what that is." And he jumped back in the car, started the car up, and peeled out, took off, headed south on 38. And didn't even turn the headlights on. My mother's hollering at him, "You turn the lights on, you're going to get us killed." We got to the breastwork of the dam. He again pulled over. And by this time, these things were a little bit larger than the average dinner plate. And, of course, when the car stopped, these things stopped directly above the roof of the car. Continually getting bigger and bigger, so you could clearly see that they were coming down. All at once, he again started the car up. He jumped in, started the car up, peeled out, and we took off coming into Butler. And we get home, and my mother hurry up and got me and my two sisters off to bed, and her and my aunt and my uncle, they stayed up all night long talking about this. It was approximately 2 days later, the local newspaper came out, and of course it was on the bottom of the front page, UFO sighting reported, northern Butler County residents startled by unidentified object. And cut that article out. I still have it. And through the years, just really, really interested in anything that I could find that related to UFO sightings. Then the Betty and Barney Hill incident, where Betty and Barney Hill it was the first reported abduction case ever. And that article broke. It came out, and it was Look magazine. And I remember reading it, rereading it over and over and over again. And I got obsessed with it. And then, of course, throughout the years, I or my entire family would have sightings, things of which we could not explain, things that happened, just frightened the living heck out of my mother, to where up until she was in hospice, passed away here several years ago, but I remember sitting at her bedside trying to get her to tell me. And she could only go so far, and she'd choke up and tear up and just literally could not talk about it. Back in 1982, and of all days, April 1st, 1982, wow. We lived up above North Washington. And I had some friends of mine come over for the evening. We were going to play some games, some card games. And we had gone outside, a buddy of mine and myself, and went to step off the back porch. And he grabbed me by the back of the arm. And of course, I lived on a 3-acre pole ground. And then the gentleman I rented from, he had a huge farm that was just on the backside of the ground that I rented. And, there was a big horse corral. His wife trained horses. Another farmer's field, just about 2-3 football field size area. And then there was a tree line. And just below the tops of the trees, there was this bright light. And, my buddy says, Dan, what is that? What is that back there? And I looked at him, kind of shrugged it off. And I says, I don't know, Howard, maybe my landlord, he owns some horse corrals back there. Maybe he put up a new dusk to dawn light. And I went ahead and went down off the porch. Mm-hmm. And as I got down, 4 or 5 steps onto the ground, I went to turn to walk out around the corner of the garage. He never come off the porch. He was just standing there fixated on whatever this was. And I looked back up. Best way I can describe it is if somebody had a spotlight and was holding it right in your eyes. You're shielding your eyes to look up at this thing. It was tremendously bright. Mm-hmm. And by this time, it was well above the tops of the trees. And it looked like it was a milky, translucent orb that you could see through, but you could clearly see some type of structure inside of this orb. Now, of course, from the position we were, it was either moving up or the fact that it was coming toward us that might have made it seem like it cleared the tops of the trees. When it was at about a 45-degree angle, if you're standing looking up at about a 45-degree angle, you could clearly see a metallic structure. And it was the perfect shape of a triangle. Again, the best way to describe it, the rack that you'd rack pool balls with on a table. Mm-hmm. How the corners are rounded, but it's triangular shape. And that's what this resembled. On the front corner and the back 2 corners was some type of pulsating light. They weren't navigation lights like you would associate on a airplane, or helicopter. These were erratically pulsating, and they were sort of kind of like a yellowish white color. And this thing, all at once, along the flat edge, the back of it, started spewing out what looked like layer after layer after layer of a blue blanket of silvery glitter.
Oh, wow.
We were just totally mesmerized by this. And of course, over the years, me telling this story or telling of this sighting, different conventions that I've spoke at or different talks that I have done, you see people out in the audience and they're just jotting down pretty much every word that I'm saying.
Right.
Afterwards, that come up, introduce themselves to me and physicists and, doctors and whatnot. And they sort of felt that the way I described it was possibly a plasma discharge. And of course, during the course of research and checking into the different millions and millions of reports that have been generated that people kind of report the same phenomena, they claim that possibly one of the propulsion methods is they manufacture plasma on board the craft and then it's discharged as a means of propulsion.
Interesting.
I don't know that for a fact, but that's what all the signs point to. We stood there, and all at once, this discharge abruptly stopped, and it was like you could see what looked like glitter falling toward the ground. This thing continued to move, and when it was directly above us, standing there looking straight up, this thing stopped and just hovered motionless. These lights on the bottom, they started absolutely going crazy, pulsating rapidly. In between the point light and the rear two lights, you could see crescent-shaped openings. The craft was starting to open up on the right and left side. I got chill bumps. Like I said, it just like this happened yesterday.
Yeah. Wow.
Once the openings, perfect circles were opened up, two metallic spheres dropped down out of this thing simultaneously. They bobbed up and down. They were probably a little bit bigger than, say, a Volkswagen Beetle. Highly metallic, and you could clearly see the openings that opened up that they came out of were starting to close up. Looking up into this thing, just very, very highly color of gold, more brilliant than if you were to take a gold watch or a gold necklace and polish it to the point to where it just glistens, even 10 times more brilliant than that. Once the openings were completely closed, these spheres started spinning. Looking up, the one that was on the right, around the circumference, the center of it, it was like a fireworks display. Sparks started shooting out in all different directions. We looked at the one toward the left to see what it was doing, and just that quick, in the blink of an eye, one shot north, one shot south. The lights on the bottom of this thing continued to erratically pulsate. It did a zigzag movement to the left, followed by an abrupt zigzag movement to the right. It stopped, and in the blink of an eye, it shot straight up till it was gone from view.
Wow.
I'll never forget it. There was a gentleman, a family from Corn City. They reported the exact opposite of what I just explained to you and your audience.
Oh, wow.
They saw these two spheres come in, and they're darting around like they're chasing or playing tag, and all at once they stopped, and they started bobbing up and down, and this triangular-shaped craft, it appeared out of nowhere. Hovered above these spheres to where the openings opened up. The spheres slowly went up into the triangular-shaped object. The openings closed, and this thing
took off
in a blink of an eye was gone.
So these little spheres that were coming out of the mothership probably were they miniature ships or miniature UFOs?
They were from our viewpoint or vantage point. These things looked just like metallic balls, perfectly round.
Mm.
And of course, there again, UFO reports that come in from all over the world. People report, metallic spheres.
Mm-hmm.
We get reports on a daily basis, and of course, we get everything from cylinder shape, egg shape, to spherical shape. And these things are being seen all over. And what they are, your guess is as good as mine.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you what we saw definitely was extraterrestrial and was under intelligent control.
Mm. There was a report that's recently done on Carson Tucker the other night, and there were reports of military seeing those triangular spheres as well. Do you think it's related to your experience and other sightings that other people have seen as well?
It very well could have been. I know recently the United States Navy, out off the East Coast, out off the West Coast, they've been having daily contact with what they call Tic Tac UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
They just recently admitted that they are genuine unknown. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they are. There's no way that they can keep up with them. These things outmaneuver our top aircraft that we have today.
Mm-hmm. Do you get more sightings and more phone calls now that we're in this pandemic and people are spending more time at home and recognizing and seeing things more?
I'd say the amount of reports. We have a website. We get reports into the website. We get reports via Facebook, and then of course my phone, it rings day and night. Mm-hmm. And we get multiple reports, if not daily, weekly. And I'd say that probably a 10 to 15% increase since the COVID lockdowns.
Mm-hmm. Do you get any reports of sightings, up on 38 where you experienced your sighting as well?
Oh my heavens! Yeah, that's a corridor up on 38, pretty much from Interstate 80 on down to Butler, going out 68 towards Shakur. Of course, there's a valley that runs through there that you can pretty much almost see Route 38 from certain areas of the road out on 68 there, but very, very heavily reported area as far as unknown sightings out in those areas.
Mm-hmm. Why is that? Is that? Do you think there's wormholes or something in those areas that these things are coming through?
Well, we did put together a thesis, I guess, and of course it was not only the Butler Organization for Research of the Unexplained, but a couple other area organizations, which there was a group from Pittsburgh that joined in with us. That they're no longer. They disbanded their group, but around our area, large manufacturing facilities. Of course, back in the day, you had Pullman Standard, which we've had a tremendous amount of sightings over downtown Butler. Wow. Just unbelievable how many sightings we've had down in around the Armco area. So large manufacturing facilities, electrical generation plants. Basically, we're surrounded by nuclear power stations, Beaver shipping port, and there's a tremendous amount of sightings in and around nuclear power plants. Large bodies of water. We have Moraine State Park, which is a man-made lake, but there again, you've got the dam out on Route 38, and just basically surrounded by large bodies of water. And for whatever reason, they seem to attract these unidentified objects.
I've heard too where certain families. I don't know if it's because of their family tree or something within their lineage or something, but it seems like every generation has a sighting or a an experience with the UFO. Have you heard that as well?
Oh yeah. You'll have entire generations of families. You'll have individuals within the family unit that will have an encounter or repeated encounters, and that's common all over the world.
Mm-hmm. What about have you ever talked to anybody, any female or any woman that was abducted and taken on board ship as part of a breeding program?
We have hundreds and hundreds of reports of abduction. We have several people that come to our monthly meetings that are involved with the Butler Organization for Research of the Unexplained that are possible abductees.
Mm-hmm.
Several of them have gone under regressive hypnosis.
Right.
And of course, when the results are revealed, according to the results, they've been abducted. I know I've had, at a very young age, just ungodly, bizarre dreams. And, I still have a problem talking about a lot of it today. Marks on my body that I can't recall ever injuring myself to leave the scars that I have. But, it's that in itself is a frightening phenomena. And not so much today. I haven't been having the reoccurring dreams, but I still have them. I call them virtual dreams. Everybody dreams, and we've all had dreams that when you wake up, you think, "Geez, man, that seems so real."
Yeah.
I call them virtual dreams. You ever go to bed, fall off into a deep sleep, and you're dreaming? You wake up to have to go to the bathroom, and you get up and you go, and when you get back to bed, when you drop back off into a deep sleep, the dream picks right up where it left off.
Yeah.
And, very vivid dreams. And, like I said, I've been able to bring myself to talk about some of them, but, openly, there are still some that bother me so bad that I just simply can't bring myself to talk about it publicly.
Mm-hmm. I've even had premonition dreams. I dreamt that Kobe Bryant would die in a helicopter crash, and I woke up and I'm like, "Holy crap, Mom! I just saw a helicopter crash." She's like, "What?" This was like a week or two before the actual thing happened. I was. It almost felt like I was in the moment. I was seeing the events unfold frame by frame, and I was standing in the middle of the street, looking up at the sky and seeing this thing hit the mountainside. Very, very surreal. Very, very. It's like I was there, and I was seeing these things happen moment by moment.
Yeah, you have an experience like that. It sticks with you,
mm-hmm.
and it haunts you. It really does.
And I've it's not the first time I've had those dreams either, and I'm like, it bothers me because I don't know who's involved with it at the time, and then to have those dreams and then see it on the news, days or maybe a couple of weeks later, it can be bothersome for sure.
Oh, absolutely. But like I said, I've had a number of personal experiences, and they're bizarre. Mm-hmm. They're definitely bizarre, and they stick with you.
Mm-hmm. I guess we could say that maybe some of these experiences that we have are maybe tied to a past life, as you said about your regression, and people that have past life regressions, and they can kind of like link the dreams to a past life.
Yeah, I firmly believe in past life.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely something to it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things of many things that we talk about here on this show and kind of beyond the veil and Circle the Universe weekly. We we tend to talk about things that the average everyday person doesn't talk about, and it gives us a nice platform to have people on such as yourself. Every time we come on the network and on the shows.
I know back in March of 1990, for those of your listeners that are familiar with our area, Butler and or Oakland Township, just right out 68, top of Lick Hill. March of 1990, there was a major UFO sighting over downtown Butler.
Oh, wow.
And of course, there were people, several people around Butler, not knowing one or the other, but they were all videotaping this unknown object that they were filming. There were reports that a craft had landed right out in Oakland Township. There were 9 sent investigation teams. NASA sent up an investigation team, but 9 oval burn marks. And of course, the were extremely large. They left depressions in the ground. They were in groups of 3. Each group formed a perfect triangle. Then all 3 groups formed a triangle. We went out, and of course, pop cans or beer cans that might have been laying in the burn marks and the impressions were flattened just like a piece of tin foil. The ground and the grass was charred black. If you were to look at these cans, absolutely just totally charred black. But if you flipped it over, you could literally read every word or the writing that was on the cans. You could tell if it was Iron City or a Budweiser or a Coca-Cola. Whatever the product was that was in that can, you could clearly see that on the bottom sides of the cans. Right along around the outer edge of each O is a deeper impression, and if you were to take either video or still pictures of those burn marks, right around the outer perimeter, the deeper impression, it was almost like there was smoke, like it was a fog. You could not see it with the naked eye, but it show up in the video or show up in the still photograph. And of course, we have a picture of that on our website. Of course, over the years, the area has completely changed. It's privately owned now. You can't gain access to that area. But the object that was filmed was just a very, very, very bright triangular-shaped or diamond-shaped object. It was teetering back and forth like if you were to take one of these old toys, a child's top, that plunger, and you'd set it down and you'd plunge it, and the thing would start spinning, and when it would start to run out of steam, it would wobble or teeter back and forth. There were 9 videos that were taken all around Butler County, all of the same object that supposedly was seen leaving this area. There was another area north to that, not too far, but there was a round burn mark that was 100 foot in diameter. They took soil samples. They took pieces of the charred or burnt grass. If you were to pick it up and crumple it, excuse me, between your fingers, it almost seemed like there was an oily residue or some type of residue that was left on your fingers. You could feel a tingling sensation. The report NASA that they come up with. I think it was like a 99-page report.
Oh, wow.
And the soil was burned several meters deep. They said the only thing that could have done that was some type of high-intensive microwave. There were no known traces of any type of accelerant. There wasn't gasoline or kerosene or anything like that used to burn these areas. So it all come back as a true unknown. The area where the 9 oval burn marks were, and the area where the 100-foot diameter burn mark was, everything was identical. And they assumed that there were actually two craft. The one that left the oval burn marks ran into some kind of mechanical issues and touched down. And the mother craft that was 100 foot in diameter came, touched down, helped initiate repairs, and then both craft left simultaneously. And like I said, for those that are interested, it's the pictures on our website. They would go to the paranormal activity section and then get into the sighting section. You tap down the screen. There's multiple reports, but you tap down about half to 3/4 of the way, and they can read a little bit about that particular incident. The website is grossly outdated. A lot of old information. We've been having a lot of trouble with it, and most it through Yahoo. I've been working diligently with them to correct the issues. We had trouble with it last March, couldn't do anything with it up until January of this year. And then when we thought we had everything back up and running 100%, now it won't allow us to make any changes or update it. So once we get all the issues resolved, able to get in there and put current sightings and different reports that are newer. Most of the pictures on there that you will see are actually authentic pictures. There are some that are artist renditions, but most of the pictures are either actual pictures that our organization has taken or have been submitted and asked if we would, put it on our website for people to view.
Yeah, Dan, if you guys need anybody that will do a website for you or update the current one, our marketing director, she's phenomenal. She does phenomenal work. She built our website. It's got WordPress back into it. You can get in there and make the changes and upgrades that you need. It's really simple. But if you're interested, or your team's interested at some point, let me know, and I'll put you in touch with her. She does phenomenal work.
I'll tell you what, definitely interested. The big problem for me, our organization is nonprofit. I don't look to make any money. Anything that we do get, we have an annual conference, which I guess we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But, we just want to be able to continue to have our conferences and bring the information to the public. We're not looking to make profit or make a lot of money from this. I've never been about that and never will be. I currently pay for any cost that's involved with our website now out of my own pocket. And, $11, it's up to $25 a month. And, I get quite upset when I go to get in there and do something and, there's just issues with it. But the problem is I don't have as far as putting into this. I would like to take everything on my website. Basically, if I could just move it the way it is, go to a different host, and be able to get into that, to change content and add new sightings and whatnot. I would love to do that. So, I am open for that. But like I said, we're nonprofit, and every little penny counts if you know where I'm coming from.
Right, exactly. That's where we're at here with our radio network. We're just getting off. We left the old, and we created our own. And unfortunately, things cost money, and when you don't got it, you don't have the money to work with it. It's tough. I completely understand. But like I said, she'll work with you. I'll give her information this weekend when I see you. But definitely, if you're open to it, I'll definitely put you in touch with her.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Worst case scenario, it'd be something that I just simply can't afford, and I have to decline. But it's worth checking into.
Yeah, and then she'll work with you if you make the money that you make or from the events, and you get so many viewers, she'll take so much out. But yeah, she'll definitely work with you. And like I said, I'll give you her information this weekend. But it's a WordPress back end site, and it's very easy to update. You just go in there, sign in, and it's real simple.
So. I'm honest with you. Other than adding information or changing information, email, I'm not real happy. So it's just would be greatly appreciated.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Dan, let's talk about the event that's coming up this weekend. Tell the listeners about it.
Saturday, April 24th will be our 13th annual Butler Paranormal Conference. It would have been our 14th, but because of year we had to cancel. So we just kind of postponed things, and we're going to be having it on the 24th, which is this Saturday coming. It's at the Tanglewood Senior Center in Lindora, PA. Just actually right, it's Butler, but Lindora, PA. And like I said, it's our 13th event, and doors open to the public at 10 a.m. The event runs from 10 to 7 p.m. I have 5 guest speakers that come in, and they get an hour to do their presentation, and that includes Q&A, questions and answers. We have probably about 50 vendors or so. There's raffles, there's door prizes, there's book signings. We provide food so people won't have to go out and hunt for some place to eat. It's nothing elaborate, but we have hot dogs, ketchup, mustard, relish, onions, chili sauce, cheese. If you want the type of thing on your hot dog, we do meatball hoagies. We do nachos with cheese. There's pop, water, coffee, candy, fruit. We try to have a little bit of everything, and we've had a lot of really good reviews with what we've done in the past. I've had a lot of people contact me and say that they've been to the conferences, they've been to them every year, and that we put national conferences to shame. And I have to tell you, that makes me feel pretty good. We try to do what we can. It's a lot of work to set one of these up and keep it going from year to year. Our conference is the longest running conference of its type in the tri-state area.
Mm. And that says something too, Dan. And I've been going almost at day one, and it's phenomenal, and it keeps growing every year. I know at one point you guys were talking about expanding and maybe getting another location, because the crowds that you guys get is really, really huge. You guys get a lot of people there, a lot of interest.
We we haven't outgrown the Tanglewood facility yet. I guess they have 4 halls that can be rented. We rent 2. We rent the main hall, and then there's a room right off of the main hall, and we fill them both up. So it's definitely been growing from year to year. A lot of interest. Again, we're not looking to make. I've had people say, "Oh, what are you doing with all the money you get from this?" You have to pay for the
Speakers.
the space to rent. We put guest speakers up in hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
We pay their expenses to and from. That all takes money, and we hope to break even, or what profit we do make, we rent the hall for the following year, and we're already planning for our conference for next year, and contacting potential guest speakers. But it's a lot of work that goes into this. I've had people contact me and say, "Why don't you do this twice a year?" The interest is there. Do it twice a year. Once a year is plenty, believe me.
Yeah, especially when you're limited help, and it takes a
absolutely. And of
lot.
course, I have to the thanks. I have to thank the members that are involved. We have a co-sponsor, and their group is tremendous. They do a lot of work to help see this thing go through. And I can't thank them enough. There's a lot of hard work and a lot of effort that these people put into this, and they do it with all their heart and soul. And the bottom line is, we have people that poo-poo ha-ha Bigfoot, poo-poo ha-ha aliens and UFOs. There's more to it than what people realize. The paranormal is more normal than you think.
Mm-hmm.
And I assure you, we are not alone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We can't be. And I had this conversation with my little brother recently. He goes, "No, we can't be. We can't. There can't be any other human life forms out there. We're the only ones." I'm like, "Dan, really? I mean, look at the research on and the news articles." And he goes, "Well, that's just news. That's just sightings. That's just people's opinions." I'm like, to each his own. You know what I mean? It's can't force it on people to believe.
We're hoping for disclosure.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm gonna ask you about that.
Since the big Roswell incident, and of course, what people don't realize is, 4, 5, 6 years before the Roswell incident, there were UFO reports and retrieved craft that had came down. The occupants of these craft have been gathered up. The military and the government has covered it up, mm-hmm. and have lied to the public ever since.
Right.
Not too long ago, Project Blue Book, they released all their files to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, ABC, NBC, CBS, all the different news affiliates, it was all over the news. There was a gentleman in Ohio that has a well-known website. He literally took all the data and posted it online. You could go to his website and you could pull up all these sightings that Project Blue Book was involved with. And I thought to myself, I looked at it a couple or three times, and I was just mesmerized on how many there were. There were thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of reports. And I thought, well, I'm not going to mess with it now. So I shut the computer down, and a couple of days after that, I get on, looked at it some more, and I thought, nah. And about 2-3 weeks had passed, and I thought, well, I'm going to get on, and I'm going to download all the sites that have happened in the tri-state area that Blue Book, Project Blue Book had posted and released. And to my surprise, you could not find one file anywhere. Went to the different news affiliates, and none of their sites had any of it listed. I got a hold of the gentleman in Ohio, which knows me quite well and know him quite well. And I told him, I said, what would it take? I'll pay whatever you want for you to burn all those files on a DVD or DVDs and send them to me.
Right.
And he said, we're not going to discuss it. I cannot do it. That's the end of it, period. Well, I didn't settle for that. I kept hounding him to the point to where he was literally PO'd at me. He said, Dan, he said, I can't explain it. I'm not going to explain it. He said, I will tell you that I received a letter from the government to cease and desist and immediately remove those files from my website. He said, I'm sure you can understand, end of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, and I've not been able to find out since, Ancestry.com, and I'm sure that you and your listeners know who Ancestry.com is.
Mm-hmm.
They supposedly claim they own the rights to all that information and not to be shared publicly. My personal opinion is government had second thoughts and retracted all those files and shut anybody down from posting them.
What does Ancestry have to do with it? What's their connection to it?
Good question. They had to, from the research and investigation that I put into it. It's like they got to lay the blame on somebody,
right?
And I think that they just decided to use Ancestry.com as the scapegoat because any research you try to do, you run right into a brick wall, and those files are just simply nowhere to be found.
That's weird. And you know they're there because you've heard of them, and you've talked to your friend in Ohio, so you know they exist. But where are they? That's the question.
Absolutely. And of course, knowing him like I do, I have no doubt that he's kept a copy for himself, probably with the intentions of someday maybe being able to repost it. But apparently somebody put the fear of God into him, and he just simply doesn't want to discuss it on the phone. He doesn't want to discuss it text-wise or email-wise, just simply does not want to talk about it.
That's strange. Yeah, somebody definitely, like you said, put the fear of God in him to shut him up. What do you think is out at Wright Pat? What are the stories that you've heard over the years about Wright-Patterson and the things that may be there?
Well, Wright-Patterson space, for those that don't know, they have very, very large freezer units. There are several tiers or levels of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Down underground, they have these large super freezers. And supposedly, we all know that, the Roswell crash site, the debris was gathered up and it was flown to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm.
A gentleman that was an undertaker, his name is Glenn Dennis. The military contacted him and asked him if he had any child-size coffins.
Yeah, I remember that story.
And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, I remember that story, but go ahead.
Yeah. They obtained several child-size coffins from Glenn Dennis. They took the remains or the bodies of these alien beings, the occupant of this craft, and also shipped those along with the debris and wreckage to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And of course, they would have been put in the deep freeze units. Now, whether or not there's any of that debris still at Wright-Patterson, or the remains of these occupants of this unidentified craft are still at Wright-Patterson. Your guess is as good as mine. There are several facilities all over the United States, all over the world for that matter. You have Area 51. You have 4, which is part of Area 51. You have Dulce, New Mexico base. And supposedly that's a base underneath Dulce, New Mexico, that is operated by half human, half alien beings. And there are several levels to this facility, one of which our government gave these alien beings permission to experiment on human beings and animals. And from what I understand, reports that have surfaced that have come out of that area, it's just absolutely bizarre and unbelievable what is going on out there. And of course, there are several other facilities all across the United States, all through, all throughout the world, and may never ever find out what the truth is behind what they are doing and actually what's in the bases.
Mm-hmm. At Roswell, didn't they find 1 or 2 beings alive after the crash?
They did. They found one that was severely injured and eventually succumbed to the wounds that it had. And then they had one that was alive and well that lived for several years after the incident.
Wow. I had a friend some years back, and he enlisted in the Air Force, and he spent some time out at Wright-Patterson. And, a couple of days after he come back from Wright-Pat, maybe a couple of years after he was in the service for a while, he had told me, he goes, "Tim, remember the stories about Roswell?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, I said, "They're true, aren't they?" And he just kind of like, I ain't denying or saying that it's true or not. He said he's kind of rolled his eyes and saying nothing. But I can just tell by a look in his face that, there is something to this. I mean, there are things out there that, yeah.
Yeah, it's you want to stir up some excitement. Take a portable, or mobile or handheld scanner with a frequency sniffer. Frequency sniffer, it's a device that you can hold it up, and if there's a radio transmission, it'll document the frequency, and then you can program that into your scanner and listen to what's going on. Go out to Wright-Patterson and sit around the base and get out and walk along under the fence. And tell you what, you definitely have some visits from the base security and probably law enforcement. You're not doing anything that's illegal, but they definitely don't like the fact that you're trying to pull out their frequencies and listen to them on a piece of equipment that is perfectly legal to buy.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, there's definitely something there that they don't want you to hear, for sure, if they do stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not something that they pounce on you like you cannot believe. I mean, almost instantaneously. It's almost like as if they know that you got there before you got there, and watch every move you make, and you got to be careful because you might end up behind bars.
Oh, wow. Dan, is there still reports of sightings in our area? Do you still get reports of things?
Daily, weekly, especially over the Butler area, we're getting almost daily reports. Best description is highly reflective cylinder type object. We have people, the way they report it is it's like somebody took the label off of a can and it was sideways and it was reflecting the sunlight and moving across the sky. Cylindrical shaped, cylinder shaped, egg shaped, all kind of reports, and they're being seen all over Butler. I personally have seen these things. Was it a friend of mine one day? We were doing some stuff and getting ready to leave, and I come out of the garage, and the sky was just pure blue. Wasn't a cloud in the sky anywhere. And for whatever reason, I felt compelled to look up. And I could see a commercial jet, and this thing is moving along at a terrific clip. And coming up along the right side of it, you could see this egg-shaped object, and I mean it was so reflective. The sun was glinting off of it. It was flying alongside this jet, and it was actually outpacing the jet. Come up, literally flew right across the flight path of this jet. The pilot, the co-pilot, navigator, they all had to have seen this thing. There's no way they could not have. FAA regulations, that's a big no-no. So they would have had to have reported. I usually carry a video camera around with me, and of course this particular day it was in my vehicle, and I was so mesmerized I wished I would have been able to capture that. But these things are being seen all over. This particular sighting was over just off of Center Avenue where the donut connection is. These things have been seen out near Moraine Point Plaza, the VA hospital, the Walmart shopping plaza, out over Moraine State Park. We get reports all the time from people that are out there for the day or people that are out there fishing, just reporting these things all the time. Trying to basically put together what they possibly could be. We've had everything from reports from Google, their drones. Google was mapping. And I said, well, normally I could buy that, but daily, they're not going to fly over the same area daily. I had to contact me and say that there's a manufacturing facility near Butler that manufactures drones for the government, and they're test flying these things.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not that. If people are out, and it's usually every 3-4 days. Of course, you have to be at the right place at the right time, but I encourage people, if you happen to look up and you see one of these things and you can capture stills or capture video with your cell phone, you've got a good camera that you can capture stills or video with it, please do so, and then please report it.
Mm-hmm. Dan, there's so many, questions out there of why Butler, why Moraine State Park, why Chicora, why our area that, these things seem to hover over.
Well, again, the study that we did, you have large manufacturing facilities, you have power generation stations, you've got large bodies of water.
Mm.
And, the reports that have been generated over the years, for whatever reason, those types of things seem to attract these unidentified craft.
Mm-hmm. Dan, what about the Gargoyle, Butler Gargoyle? You think there's a connection there with the UFO sightings?
Well, there again, that's I've interviewed and have investigated this ever since the first report came in. I've personally interviewed multiple witnesses, and I've done Bigfoot, I've done Dogman, I've done tons and tons and tons of crypto investigations. this gargoyle and how we got it deemed it the Shakura gargoyle. I'll get into that here shortly, but this is one thing that just over the years has really freaked me out.
Mm-hmm.
And, just sitting here thinking about it, talking about it, I have chill bumps my entire body. But first initial report, there was a gentleman that's a prominent businessman. He lives down in Cranberry, and he has a business up in East Brady, PA.
Mm-hmm.
He was coming into Butler, and it was just before daybreak. It was still dark enough you had to drive with your headlights on, but light enough that, you wouldn't had to have had them on. And he's coming in toward Keppel's Corners from East Brady. Very avid as far as a hunter. And he noticed something along the berm of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Turned his high beams on, and he thought it was a deer. So he thought, well, where there's one, there's more. I better slow down. So he started to slow down, and when he came within roughly 20 feet of where this thing was at, he noticed in a crouched position, and it wasn't a deer.
Mm-hmm.
These road signs, triangular-shaped road signs that are yellow. This thing was crouched beside this road sign, and when it stood up, it was clearly 2 heads taller than the very tip of this road sign, which would have made it 9-10 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
He said that it had a dark, leathery tan hide. It was facing toward the opposite side of the road. And he said he came to a complete stop and was just absolutely awestruck by what he was seeing. He said this thing stepped out into the middle of the road, and it stood there like as if with its surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Stood there, head tilted upward like it was sniffing the air. That would lead me to think that it acted like it wasn't familiar with its surroundings. He said that it didn't acknowledge, me being there. It didn't turn and look at the car. It didn't turn and look at me. And he said this thing had a pointed head, concave forehead. He said the back of his head was like an aerodynamic biker's helmet.
Mm-hmm.
He said the forehead was concaved and ribbed like a washboard. It had slanted eyes, blacker than coal. It had wings that protruded from the shoulders and hung down almost to ground level.
Mm-hmm.
He said its knees were bent the opposite direction of ours. So it had a really bizarre, funny stance. As best he could tell, it had 3 or 4 appendages for fingers. He said very long claws that were blacker than coal, and 3 or 4 toes, and again, long toenails that were blacker than coal. He said after a few seconds, he said this thing took 2 steps.
It was gone.
Was on the opposite side of the road and took one step up the bank and disappeared into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
He said he couldn't believe what he saw, and he went ahead and sat there for a few seconds. Of course, there wasn't any traffic coming in either direction. He was the sole car and individual on the road at that time. And he went ahead and he proceeded on into Butler.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, he and a few of his friends went out, scoured the area, could not find anything.
Mm-hmm.
We've had several reports. I think I've 28 reports to date, multiple witnesses. If you were to take these reports, and of course these people don't know one another,
right?
If you were to take their reports and sit down and read them, you would swear that they all sat at a table and compared notes.
They were all the same.
And said, "Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say, the same thing, and there was so much similarity in every single one of these reports, it was just absolutely mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that none of these people know one another, you know that these people had to have seen something.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to each and every one of these individuals, and I asked them point blank, if you could give this thing a name in as few words as possible, what comes to mind?
Mm-hmm.
Not one of them had to even think about it without gargoyle.
Wow.
So as a result, you know, that had happened near Shakora, so that's how we deemed it the Shakora gargoyle.
Mm-hmm. Dan, I got to tell you, I got to confess to you, I saw that very same thing one day. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it was in the evening around 6:00, 6:30. I was working for Butler Hospital. I was a courier, and we had a like a shop. Butler Hospital had like a outpatient facility in East Brady. I was on my way back to Butler, and I was on 268, and I was on the flats of 268. I had just rounded the curve, and this thing was standing in the road. It's described as, exactly what the witness that talked to you. It was very tall. It had 3 or 4 fingers, 3 or 4 toes, and long wings, like football size head. But I don't remember if the eyes were red or if the eyes were black. But I saw the very same thing, and I'm thinking, as I approach this thing, it's if it's going to move, disappear, or whatever. But I come within like 20 feet of it, and it suddenly vanished. I didn't see where it went, but it went. I'm assuming it went to the left of me into the high grass and into the woods. But I saw the very same thing as I rounded the bend. It was like on the flat part of the road, and it was just standing there as I rounded the turn.
There have been multiple sightings of this thing out in that area.
Mm-hmm.
The initial witness, he has had multiple sightings of it. Of course, speculation,
Mm-hmm.
just from the way people say it reacted. My first thought is interdimensional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's sniffing the air. It's not familiar with its surroundings. But then also, it possibly could be some type of alien species.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've also had UFO reports along with sightings of this creature.
All right. That's why, I was asking you if there's a connection between this entity and the UFO sightings.
There very, very well could be. I had an individual that was early spring. The guy is an avid biker.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is 6'4". His shoulders are so broad it looks like he's got shoulder pads on.
Hmm.
Very, very muscular. This guy is not afraid of anything. Believe me, he is not afraid of anything. He would give you the shirt off his back. He was itching to take his bike out. He lived up in Petrolia at the time. And he told me, he said that I got the bike out. I was going to go up through Shakur, up through East Brady, up through Reimersburg, just make the big loop and come back down and take the bike home.
Mm-hmm. He
was up there about approximately a mile past Keppel's Corner. For your listeners, it's a little Dairy Queen or eatery that's right at a section of crossroads there where this thing has been seen multiple times. Said he's biking down the road toward East Brady, and at first he thought it was a man standing in the middle of the road, and he thought, it struck him odd. I mean, why would the guy just be standing there?
Mm-hmm.
He came within 8-9 feet of this thing, and he said it was standing in the middle of the road, and it was standing with its head tilted back, and clearly could see that it was sniffing its surroundings.
Wow.
He stopped the bike. He said there was no cars coming either way, and he shut the motor off. He said, this thing's straight from hell.
Mm-hmm.
He said, it scared me so bad, that my knees were trembling and my hands were shaking so bad that I wouldn't have been able to control my bike.
Mm.
He said, I'm trying with all my strength to backstroke, push my bike backward, push my bike away from this thing. And he was so afraid that I was going to make noise that it would turn and see me, and then who knows what would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
He finally got about 20, 25 feet away from it. I turned my bike around physically, pushed it a few feet forward, started it up, and got the hell out of there and went straight home. He said, Dan, I don't know what this thing was. He described it just like I described it previously.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, it can go back to hell where it came from. But he said it was a day or two after he had his sighting that he called me. And he said, this thing bothered me so bad. He said, I had to call you. I had to tell you. And, we had an incident out along Route 422. A family was headed home for the evening. They were just getting ready to cross over the 422 bridge headed toward Newcastle. Husband was driving. The wife was in the passenger seat. Two very small children in the seat, and of course they're strapped into their car seats. Wife told her husband, slow down, there's a deer on the bridge. So her husband, he slowed down, and when he come to a stop, this thing was standing directly outside the passenger side window of the car. The kids were screaming, and the little boy was so frantic, he managed to work out of his car seat and somehow, some way, wedged himself in halfway underneath the driver's seat of the car. The kids were hysterical. The wife said she looked up and she said, the thing that scared me the most and sticks with me today is its eyes. And he said, I'm screaming at my husband, screaming at him, go, 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 go. And he said, my husband's sitting there trying to look out the window to get a better look at this thing. He said the husband started to get the car moving, and as they pulled away, they could actually, if you were to be out on a windy day and there was a big flag up in the air and the wind was just flapping and whipping it like crazy, that flapping sound that it makes. The windows were up on the car, and the husband said that he looked in the rearview mirror just in time to see this the air here. And but just telling me that the woman for a couple months, one of her in their own room. They had to sleep in, and they would not lay down until when I talked with her here probably about a month ago, and this happened quite some time ago. And she said she still hates me. The stare that this thing had looking right at her, right in the past, the most frightening thing that I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Wow.
We've had reports, this thing, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, up into Canada. There are eyewitness reports of this thing all over. And ironically, all the reports are just like I stated and gave the description of what this thing looks like.
It kind of makes you wonder if it's tied to the Mothman creature in West Virginia, or maybe the sort of the same family type of thing.
Could very well be. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. People referred to it as the Mothman. That's the same creature that was seen in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. But there again, what is so ironic about it is the eyewitness reports. There is so much that is exactly the same when you read these reports. The stance, the wings that protrude almost to the ground, the knees that are bent backwards, the nails, the eyes, the pointed aerodynamic biker's helmet, back of the head, concave forehead. There's just so many similarities. It's mind-boggling.
Well, Dan, if you want to take a break, we can take a break, and then we'll continue this discussion. Or if there's anything that you would like to add that we haven't talked about, you can feel free to do so as well. But I think we're going to go on a break here, and it's going to be about 3-4 minutes, and then we'll come back.
That's fine. That's fine.
All right, Dan. You're listening to Supernatural Realm on the Trim Radio Network, WTRMradio.com. We'll be right back right after this. Don't go away. WTRMradio.com, your talk station.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who would have thought they'd lead you? Who would have thought they'd lead you? Back here where we need you. Back here where we need you. Yeah, we tease him a lot because we got him on the spot. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We are now WTRM, the Trim Radio Network.
Take the pill. Take the red pill. Take the blue pill. Take the red pill. Take the blue pill. You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
That's right. Take the red pill, and I will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to midnight here on the Trim Radio Network.
This is
it's
your
the Red Pill
chance.
Reality Show. See you then.
After this, there is no turning back.
On the Spiritual Freedom Show on WTRM, the Trim Radio Network, you will hear the voice of an extraterrestrial master speaking through my teacher, Dr. George King, as it was recorded over 60 years ago. I'm Richard Lawrence, and every Saturday at noon Eastern Time, I bring you the wisdom of the 9 freedoms, with practical to give global service and attain enlightenment.
You're listening to the Trim Radio Network. We cut the bull and serve the truth.
Watch this. I'm gonna take you for a day. Take you for a ride. Gonna get you along. I'm gonna up and get you singing along. Hey, 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 all right. I'm digging on it in a minute. You tonight. Now, wishing now, down, you tired. What's it gonna take? What's we can pump it on the bar to kick it in the country? Me and you and me, on it back, guarantee. Love you every night and Daytona. I'm gone. Hey, hey, all right. Girl, I'm digging on, hitting on you tonight. It ain't a maybe, it's hoping now, wishing now, wanna. It's a damn right. Hold you tight, baby. I'm gonna love you all night long till the crickets stop chirping. Girl, I ain't just flirting, I'm certain. I'm working on a long-term plan. man, gonna be your man, gonna put a little rock steady on your hand. Hey, hey, all right. Girl, I'm digging on. Damn right, hold tight, baby. I'm on a hey, hey, all right. Girl, I'm digging on, hitting on you tonight. It ain't a maybe, it's hoping now, wishing I wanna. It's a damn right, hold you tight, baby. I'm gonna. Yeah. Hey, hey, all right. Whoa, hey, hey, all right. Yeah. Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Back here where we need you. Back here where we need you. Yeah, the tease in the light, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We are now WTRM, the Trim Radio.
And welcome back to radio.com, the Trim Radio Network. Well, we see the truth. I can't get that right. But anyway, we are the Trim Radio Network. We serve the bull and whatever. Trim the bull and serve the truth. I'll get it right one of these days. Daniel, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. My mom was asking about the sightings in Alaska, and she said that they about the being in trees, and she's saying about they call them, they refer them to the Alaska little people or something. Have you heard that before?
Oh yeah, Alaska. They have their share of UFO sightings up there. Of course, you have the Alaskan Triangle, like the Bermuda Triangle, but many reports they refer to them as little people or whatnot. But Anchorage, Alaska, Nome, Alaska, pretty much all throughout the entire state, and the sightings are on an increase. I just saw a report here last week where they're actually they're daily.
Mm-hmm.
And Alaska, as far as states in the United States, they probably have the most cases of people just vanishing and never to be heard of or seen of again. And there's a lot of speculation that there's a portal, time shift. These portals are opening and not able to come back to unknowns.
A lot of that, like a lot of it seems to be Native American grounds as well. Where it occurs that the medicine man on the land or on that property at one time, Colorado, and people there as well. It's all over the United States.
The people disappearing is a phenomenon in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Your listeners can, those of them that are familiar with YouTube, and I'm sure everybody is, but there's a phenomena where the face of the earth, and from infants to elderly people, all ages, and mostly happening in our national parks.
Right.
And there's a phenomenon out there. It's a gentleman by the name of David Politis.
Right.
He's a retired police officer, but for those of your listeners that are interested, they can go to YouTube and either type in Dave Politis or phenomenon, and this is for ages, for decades, and it's still going on right now today.
Been trying to about those reports and get some of the insight on those, but yeah, it's a very scary thing that's out there, and I've even heard stories of the Great Lakes Triangle too as well. Guess something similar to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's all kinds.
We've actually had Pennsylvania National. And of course they're not reporting it. People, they don't hear about it, and they have dozens upon dozens of people that are just vanishing in the Allegheny National Forest right here in Pennsylvania, but you don't hear about it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder why that is. You guys been getting reports on that? I'm sure you guys have, right?
Oh yeah. I know the Kinzua Dam.
Mm-hmm.
Those of your listeners that are familiar with Kinzua Dam, just a lot of bizarre things that are going on and have been going on up in around that area. And I'm talking everything from Bigfoot sightings to UFO sightings. I've been up there a multitude of times. I have a good friend that lives up there, and I've gone up, and he's probably 20 miles away from Kinzua Dam. We'll go up and camp out in that area and do a lot of research. And I'll tell you, every single time that I've gone up, I've come home with more questions than answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking everything from Bigfoot, UFO, to possibly some type of portals up there that are opening and closing. And it's just a bizarre place. And, for those of your listeners, they could go up there and camp out and possibly, if they're interested in having an experience themselves. But we've actually have ran across campsites, and we're talking very, very expensive campers or camping equipment, tents, whatnot, and the sites are abandoned. And you could tell that when the people left, they left in a hell of a hurry.
Mm.
And I'm talking one particular campsite up there. We checked it out. One of the tents looked like it was ripped to shreds. There were picnic coolers. And the picnic coolers, there were full cases of beer, gallon jugs of water, full cases of pop. There were packages of wrapped hot dogs, hamburger, sausages, eggs. Now, a bear would be able to smell that meat, and of course it was spoiled, it was rotten, but a bear would be able to smell that miles upon miles away. And literally none of it was touched. Just absolutely bizarre circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've documented it. We've taken pictures of the campsite. We've notified the park rangers and the sheriff's department. And eventually somebody gets in and they clean the equipment up, because apparently, somebody's liable to go in and help themselves and take the camping equipment. But, just absolutely bizarre circumstances.
And that's
and of course,
yeah, and that's all over the park. You've seen that all over.
Absolutely. friend of mine that lives up there, he has a relative that's in the sheriff's department up there. And, of course, Denny, he gets into that area, if not every couple days, at least a couple times a week. He sets up trail cams. He's had personal Bigfoot experiences, possibly abduction incidents, multiple UFO sightings, has experienced time loss, has experienced possible portal, getting trapped in it, and luckily, by the grace of God, returning. His relative that's on the sheriff's department told him, you need to quit going into these areas. And if you do go into these areas, under no circumstances, go unarmed. Mm. And they've told him. Even the park rangers have told him, if we get a call from your wife that you turn up missing, no one's going to come looking for you after dark, because we do not go into the park after dark. Mm. And, to have your own relative tell you, don't go into that area unless you've got an elephant gun. Why? Wow. And like I said, I've personally experienced some of this stuff. I can't explain it. I'm at a loss for words. I've come back with more questions than answers, and there's definitely something going on up there.
Mm. Dan, do you think maybe, do you ever think about the possibility of you being intuitive to these things?
I'm sorry?
Have you thought about the possibility of you being like psychically intuitive to these things?
Yeah, that thought has crossed my mind a number of times, and I have been told that I am sensitive to these types of things. Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like you've had experiences since, as you said, since you were 5 years old, and you continue to have these experiences.
Yes. There was an incident, very young age. My mother had the sweeper guy coming, Electrolux. And she told me, she said, when he gets here, I want you to be on your best behavior. And of course, bizarre dreams and multiple sightings, even at that early age. And when this guy came, he started unloading his stuff, and I was sitting, on the couch. And he grabbed these hoses that went to this sweeper and started flailing them around. And I freaked out. I went into the laundry room, and of course I was a chubby little rascal back then. And the hot water tank sat in a corner. There was absolutely, till this day, I still think about it often, how I managed to get in behind that hot water tank, between the tank and the wall, to hide. My mother could not get me out. She literally had to call and have a plumber come and disconnect the hot water tank and move it so I could come out from behind it. And I mean, when I say freak out, I freaked out.
Wow.
And of course, I've had dreams being connected to something with hoses or wires or something. And like I said, the dreams are very vivid, seem so real. And they sort of figured that whatever I've had happen in my younger years was the reason why I freaked out over him, flailing them hoses around.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, I think it's definitely. Go ahead, Dan.
A couple of the people that are involved with our group and our organization that are possible abductees, they've been trying to talk me into go under regressive hypnosis. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of split down the middle. You know, half of me, I want to know, but the other half is telling me you're not ready to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to go to there was a group up in Greenville, and the woman that held the meetings, she was aware of sightings that I've had and aware of some of the dreams that I've managed to talk about. And she had this woman that wanted to meet me, and you know, very old, very frail woman, and apparently this woman was a psychic, clairvoyant, whatever you call them. And we were in this hall, and you know, she had to have help. Somebody had to hold her by the arm, you know, while she was walking. She was frail. And it was in a church, school type facility. So when you came in, you went through a set of glass doors into a vestibule, through a second set of glass doors, into a larger vestibule through a set of third glass door into what they called the Great Hall. Then, of course, you'd walk back a long corridor, and you'd come into the what they called the library. And when you walked in, it was a huge, I mean, gigantic room. To the left was a fireplace that took up the whole wall from the floor to the ceiling. It was all natural stone. And then, of course, over on the right, when you walked in, back section on the right, they had these 8-foot banquet tables, and they had them set up in a rectangle. So you'd have probably, there were probably 4 8-foot banquet tables, and then they'd come across 2 banquet tables, and then 4 more banquet tables, and then end it with 2 more banquet tables in a big rectangle. People were sitting around these tables, and I was at the far end, second seat in on the left. There was a woman on my left and her husband. There was a elderly woman on my right and her daughter, beyond her, and a whole slew of people on down. I didn't know who this woman was. I had never met her. She wanted to meet me. And they claim that the minute she went through that first set of doors, she was overcome. It was almost like she was going to pass out.
Wow.
I kept looking toward the door. I wasn't even in the room yet, the hall. And when they finally came in, we immediately made eye contact. And like I said, you've been at our conferences, so you know
Many
the
times.
length of that room.
Mm-hmm. Huge.
Double that 2.5, possibly 3 times.
Wow.
From one wall to the other. That gives you an idea how big this room was. And when the minute she came through that last set of doors and down that corridor and into the room that we were in, we immediately made eye contact. And they're holding her up. They brought her over, and Sharon said, "Dan, there's somebody I'd like you to meet." So I get up, and I went with Sharon, and I walked up, and I extended my hand and clasped my hand in both hers, put her, sandwiched my hand in between hers. And when she did that, it was like I had an electrical charge run through my body. And the first thing that came out of her mouth, the very first thing she said, and she just looking deep into my eyes, she said, "You have been 3 times."
Wow.
Now, let me tell you what, that would freak you out. And we sat down. They had several huge sofas over by the fireplace, and she said, "Can we sit down and let's chat?" So we went over, and we're sitting on one of these sofas, and we talked, and she said, "Your dreams are starting to reveal what has transpired in your lifetime." And of course, I hadn't told her anything about my dreams. And of course, some of the dreams that I've had, there's a tremendously god-awful bright light, and it's spinning, and I'm being drawn toward it, and I'm fighting with every ounce of my being to keep from being drawn into this light. And so much so that when I wake up, it's almost like I went to bed just after I stepped out of the shower from perspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I've also had dreams where I'm laying on some type of I don't know if it's stainless steel or something similar to that, but a metal table that's slightly elevated. And I'm paralyzed, but I can move my head just enough and move my eyes that I'm looking down toward this wall, and there's all these gauges and blinking lights on it. And there are these beings that are standing there, all dressed alike, and they're manipulating these controls. And I'm screaming at them, trying to communicate with them to no avail. And again, eventually I'll come out of my deep sleep, and just the pillow's all wet, and I'm all wet from perspiration. Very traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
Those are a couple dreams that I have repeatedly. And of course, I have her telling me that my dreams are going to reveal what's transpired in my lifetime, and that I've been taken 23 times, not to mention a lot of other stuff we talked about.
Right.
And needless to say, that would freak anybody out.
Mm-hmm. Dan, I got to tell you, when I first met you years ago at the very first conference that I attended, I noticed something very special about you, that there were these abilities and these experiences that you've had that are like no other. I felt drawn to you. I felt like I had a connection with you because of these because of something I didn't even know at the time, but now I know. You've had these supernatural experiences. You're very intuitive, and I sensed it right away when I first met you.
Well, I've had other people tell me the same thing. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I know I'm not ready to fully find out, but again, I've been told that continue to do what I'm doing. Eventually, I'll be brought up to speed, and I'll be more than willing to go under regressive hypnosis and find out the truth.
Have you ever experienced light beings? Have you ever experienced the 5D reality, 5D world?
Unfortunately, yes, I have.
Mm-hmm.
There's an incident that my mother had. My entire family, people know what a migraine headache is.
Right.
And our entire family has been plagued with migraine headaches.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get them, not so much anymore, which I'm thankful for. I used to get them so bad, I would have to put an ice pack under the back of my neck, put one across my forehead, go into an absolute, totally dark room, no sound whatsoever, hope that I would fall asleep or pass out, and hope that when I woke up, that it would be gone. I would get them so bad that I would literally see sparks flying. My mother had an incident one time. We lived over on Locust Street. We lived above a grocery store. You had to come up quite a few steps to get into the apartment that we were living in. Mm-hmm. She got me and my sisters off to bed one night, and she had a migraine headache so bad she couldn't lay down. She went into the living room, and she was sitting on the edge of the couch, and she got an ice pack, and she was going to try to lay down. Totally dark. Couldn't see her hand in front of you because there were no lights on whatsoever. And all at once, the hallway lit up like the sun had just come up, broad daylight. He said she looked into the hall. She's sitting on the edge of the couch, and she could see a hand coming up the banister, eventually see the arm, see the shoulder, and she said this very, very, very tall, illuminated being stepped into the hall and turned and started coming toward the living room. She said that she was clasping her chest. She had one hand on her forehead, and she was trying to scream. That it was like she was paralyzed. She couldn't do it. The next thing she remembered, she woke up. It was broad daylight, and she's lying on the floor in front of the couch. That bothered her so bad, she called her brother, my uncle, and pleaded with him to come and stay. Now, he lived in Akron, Ohio at the time, and he was unable to come right away, but he said eventually he would be there. That next night, again, she had the worst migraine headache that you could imagine. The chain of events that took place were completely the opposite of what I just described. She said the hallway lit up like the sun was shining right there in the hall. She could see the hand, the arm, shoulder, the head, and what emerged at the top of the steps was a completely black silhouette of some type of humanoid or being, very tall. Started to turn and come toward the living room. And just as it crossed through the doorway into the living room, and again, she's trying to scream, next thing she remembers is she woke up on the floor, broad daylight, in front of the couch. Now, there's more to that story. I tried to get my mom year after year after year to talk about it and tell me the full story. You know, holidays, I'd have the family would come to my house for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter dinner. And we'd sit around the table, and she'd start to tell me. And she would get to a certain point, and you could see tears running from her eyes. And it was almost like as if her vocal cords become paralyzed, and she simply could not divulge the rest of the story. And right up until the time that she was in hospice, trying to get her to talk about it, and never ever did find out the full story. But you know, having dreams that coincide with the incident that I just explained to you, her incident, things I've personally had happen to me. It's just too bizarre, too coincidental. There's got to be more to it.
Wow. I wish I would have been able to talk to you here, because he's experienced a lot of things with light beings in his home. He feels that he's an old soul. He wants to go home. He's been telling me that for years. But you would like Chip, and hopefully one day we could have you back on and you could talk to Chip, because he's experienced a lot of the same things that you're talking about right now.
Well, like I said, it's there are a lot of things that you know, I still have. I just can't talk about it. You know, I've sat down with our co-director. She's had possible abduction experiences and a lot of the similar things that I've described and you hear this evening. And you know, we've sat and drank coffee, and I've opened up her, and you know, I haven't told her everything. And, you know, there's just some of it that I just simply have a tough time dealing with. And, you know, the longer I am involved with this organization, the more I do, the more I investigate, the more I talk with other people, it's getting easier. I'm still not there. eventually, the day may come where I'll go ahead and go under regressive hypnosis. I may not like what I find out, but again, I've been told that continue doing what I'm doing. It'll bring me up to speed, and I'll be able to accept what I learn a lot better than to just go into it not knowing.
Dan, I have friends that do past life regression for a living. If anytime you're open to, or you want to talk to me, or talk to Chip, or any of the guests that I've had on this show, I'll put you in touch with anybody I can to have for you to talk to, and you can talk to me anytime. I consider you a good friend, and I'm glad we had this discussion. I'm glad I had you on to get to know you more, and to get to know some of your background.
Well, I truly appreciate you inviting us, and I would love nothing more than to be on again sometime. Again, for those of your listeners that might be interested, the annual Butler Paranormal Conference should be our 14th, but we had to cancel last year. But this Saturday will be the 13th annual Butler Paranormal Conference at the Tanglewood Senior Center in Lindora. Doors open to the public at 10 a.m. The event runs until 7 p.m. I have 5 guest speakers that will be covering everything from UFOs, Bigfoot, aliens, ghosts. We have a ton of vendors, and they sell everything from cosmetics to related Bigfoot, UFO, alien merchandise. There'll be book signings. We have a couple guys that they come and they represent the Men in Black, for those of you that are familiar with the Men in Black phenomena. And we also have food there for those that want to partake. That way you don't have to go out and hunt for a local place in Butler. Hot dogs with all the fixings of, whatever you want, meatball hoagies, nachos, potato chips, coffee, pop, water, fruit, candy. Prices are really reasonable. The cost for the event is $15, and we give you a wristband. So if you don't pay for the whole thing, you want to leave, you come back. As long as you have your wristband on, you get back in. Don't have to pay a second time. But it's a really good time. Keep an open mind. Come out and join us for a day of the paranormal. Like I stated earlier, the paranormal is more normal than you think.
That's for sure.
And believe me, we are not alone. We have a website for those of you that are interested. And like I stated earlier, keep in mind that it needs updated. And of course, once we get the issues resolved, we'll be able to get in there and plug in all the new information and dates. It's www.boru-ufo.com. I encourage your listeners, if you have a sighting, you have an encounter, something can't explain, don't be afraid to report it. I can assure you, all your personal information will be held with the strictest confidence. We get your permission if you want the report posted on our website. We'll post just the facts. Your name and everything will be withheld. And anybody that has a sighting or want to make a report, they can do it via the website, or they can contact me at VOP447@yahoo.com. That's Victor Oscar Papa 4647@yahoo.com. And your report will go into a national database. Like I said, all your personal information, your name, your address, anything like that, be excluded. That with strictest confidence. We don't share that with anyone. And you never know. It's like putting the pieces to a jigsaw puzzle together. That little bit of information that you provide or that sighting that you have may coincide with something else that someone else has reported or seen. And eventually those pieces of that jigsaw puzzle form a picture. Mm-hmm. So I encourage you, report your sightings. Don't be afraid to do so. I assure you, anyone involved with the Butler Organization for Research of the Unexplained, they're not going to laugh at you. They're not going to scoff. We take what we do very seriously. And there's a lot to it. And the truth is out there. We're alone. Mm-hmm. We also have a monthly meeting, which is open to the public. It's always the fourth Wednesday evening of each month. Our meetings are currently held at the Artisan Restaurant on Route 422. And the meetings start at 6:30 and last till right about 9 o'clock. We have a lot of fine people. We're growing in size. We have a lot of people that have had personal experiences. And trust me, they'd love to hear what your experience is and share their experiences with you. And we're there for people that have had a tough time dealing with it and want to open up and need someone to talk to. Mm-hmm. So with that, any other questions?
Dan, a friend of mine just wrote in chat. He says, I'll watch this later on. This is the first time watching this, and I am very excited I did. I always stayed quiet and thought I was crazy. But thanks, Tim, to you and your mom, I'll keep in touch. Great show. So he appreciated the information that we talked about today. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And we'll see you Saturday at the Butler Paranormal Conference.
We're looking forward to it. And, hopefully, despite everything with the coronavirus, we'll have a good turnout. For those of you that possibly might be interested in coming, we do require that you wear a mask into the facility, or if you leave, they want you to wear a mask. Once inside, if you don't want to wear a mask, you do not have to, but we ask you to respect other individuals. And I'm sure we'll have people that will wear their mask the whole entire time, but, we'll have masks available. If you come and you forgot to bring yours, we'll have one for you. Again, the cost of the event is $15. And like I said, we have raffles and door prizes. Got some really nice door prizes we're going to be giving away. And, hope to see you all there.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. And unfortunately, we're out of time, and we'll have you back on. Once Chip gets back on, I'm sure he'd love to talk to you about your experiences growing up and some of the stories that you've heard, some of the reports that you guys have gotten over the years. We'll definitely have you back on.
Well, we'd love to come back on. And again, thank you so very much for having us. And if I may, before we go, I want to personally thank all the local area merchants in downtown Butler and surrounding area for supporting us, allowing us to post and advertise our event. And with that, then allowing us to advertise merchants in downtown Butler and surrounding area for supporting our organization.
All right, Daniel. Thank you much for coming on. Great, had a great talk.
Hey, thank you for seeing you on Saturday.
All right, Dean. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, folks, that was Dan Hageman, the local organization. Conversation with him. And don't forget, Butler Paranormal Conference, the 13th annual Butler Paranormal Conference at the Tanglewood Entertainment, just off of Hanson Avenue, Inland Door, or in Butler. It's like right at the Butler Lindora city line. So it's from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. As Daniel said, they have a lot of guest speakers there. A lot of great, or actually 4 or 5 great guest speakers there. Door prizes, raffles, a lot of good food, and a lot of good discussion and vendors. Mom and I will be there with our jewelry and our rosaries, and it's going to be a great time. And we're looking forward to it. So with that, I'm going to say good night, everybody, and don't forget Thursday, right here on WTRMradio.com, Supernatural Realm Radio, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We got the great Bill Bean, deliverance minister. Bill Bean's going to be with us, and you can find out more if you go to BillJBean.org. That's BillBean.org. Good night, everybody, and have a great night. And look forward to everybody listening and tuning in Thursday. This is the first time I tried Restream, and it's worked out quite well. And we'll be back on with Chip Reichenthal as my co-host, and Bill Bean. Deliverance Minister Bill Bean's going to be with us. So the three of us will be on video Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on WTRMradio.com. And our logo is we trim the bull and cut the bull and serve the truth right here on the Trim Radio Network. Good night, everybody. Have a great night.
Network.
Good night, everybody.